Alright, welcome to Elite Tips. We're gonna get started. Gonna run through the interface. Let me know if the music is too loud or you're not feeling it. We'll get started in a second. So I'm just checking the audio quality, making sure that everything sounds good. A couple of the things I've been pointed out, my interface is a little bit old, so we're running the latest version, but some of the images you might see are a bit old in terms of front, back, floor. These are the old bits and textures. Let's drop a tiger in. Look, I really like the tiger. I don't know where the tigers come from, I'll be honest, but we're going to play with the tiger. So feel free, if you've got questions, love to hear questions. Feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of have a fairly relaxed stream. Play with a little bit of L8. So try not to go too fast or do anything. Wow, I've duplicated that tiger. So in previous streams, I started off with this massively huge stage, and people don't really get the concept on how quickly and easy it is to build in L8. Of course, you don't have to build in L8. You can use most of the programs available in the markup: SketchUp, AutoCAD, Vectorworks, especially if it can do a 3DS, we're in for a good time. So I'm just really sort of looking through, seeing what bits I can use. Obviously we've got our lovely truss libraries now available, but I think this time I'll just use our normal modelling library and grab our lovely steel desk. Now I will make the floor. Simple one from Cameron Whitehead. How do you make the whole space larger? Keep putting trusses in but can figure out I haven't gone through a wall. Hope this makes sense. Yeah, it's a really simple one. So let me just drop this to the floor. And you might have noticed I've already done one thing that isn't by default. So you might have noticed when we get into a file, the floor isn't actually the center. The center of a room is normally the middle of the room, which is here. So the first thing I always do when I start a file, especially before a Vectorworks import, is I touch on the floor and I make sure it's the world center, because now I can do stuff like set the altitude to 0 for our stage deck here. But as for your question, Cameron, really simple. Down the bottom here, I'm going to check that I've got the right view up. Down the bottom here, we've got room size. So if I just change it to 35 and a width of, let's say 20 and a height of 5. Let's go 9. Nice and easy. The room will change size. And that's as simple as it is. The next question most people ask is, how do I get rid of all these front, back, floor things? Select them all, so they're always at the bottom of your list. We can now see that they're W1 through W6, because they're called walls. And we can just drop the texture. And we can also drop the diffusion back a bit as well if we want to get sort of a darker environment. And then when we bring the house lights down via the compass, you can see that there's no light reflecting off that or anything. Yeah, look, it was a simple question, but stuff like that frustrates me on a regular basis as well. Not just with this software, but just with software in general. Sometimes you feel kind of, I don't know, stupid, because you're like, oh, what have I done wrong? Why do these people manage to get stuff to work but I don't? Maybe 12 meters is too wide for what I want to build here. Please let me know if that music is too loud. I'm constantly turning it down to my ears, so I'm wondering whether it's Too loud for others. Looks like it's shared a couple of times. So I'm just obviously bouncing back and forth, checking that stream audio is fine. We've got a couple of people watching, but it's not about the amount of people. It's about showcasing features, like the new Tiger. Whoops, I don't have my 3D mouse with me. I'm making a lot of excuses already. So we've now added a Tiger with a couple of preset motions. Looks like we've got 2 preset motions. Maybe lose the music a bit more. Sweet, dude. Alright. Drop it to 11%. Anyway, we'll go back to putting some lights in. Now I do have a lighting guest cook up today. Of course, console of choice for me is always MA. Got a couple of nodes, but we might just start by bringing some basics in. You know what? I've been really liking the robe stuff recently. I used some of the mega pointies recently and they're just beautiful. Let's chuck them in reduce mode and put them on this truss. So, look, as I said, this is more of a question and answer thing. I'm not going to do the full sales pitch, but I am going to obviously show off some of the features. And I'm going to use you as an example, Cameron. If people can't find how to resize the room, they might not have found the useful tools on the right-hand side here. Now, the tools on the right-hand side here, as I've called them useful, allow you to drag fixtures around just like we've done there. But when we get close to an object, such as this truss, and it's actually underneath it, it'll snap to that truss. And it's quite hard until you're doing it yourself, but trust me, so if I just drag really slowly with my mouse, it's going to get to a point and quickly snap. I spoke to another L8 user recently and he said, oh, but it should leave a bit of space so that if you were using hook clamps. I'm like, that's an interesting little concept, I guess. So that's 1.45. 1.45. There we go. Logically, that's 3 meters. Whoops, that'd be minus 1.5. Hi Alex, it's Russell from Captive AV. Can't wait to get our L8 dongle. Looking forward to toiling on some great designs. Hey Russ, mate. Yeah, your dongle is definitely in the mail. I'll send you the tracking information tomorrow. I totally neglected to do that. I just didn't want you getting stung with an extra shipping fee, and the L8 store wasn't ready to do that. So the story and the good news is for those in the Asia Pacific region. See, I promised I wouldn't do like sales pitchy stuff, but here we are. Rather than having to wait on stock to arrive from our lovely friends in the Ukraine, we've now got our own stock in Australia. I was about to say we have 7 dongles, but now thanks to the guys at Captivate AV, we now have 6 dongles. Basically, they come unformatted, so when you put in an order, we put a request through the Ukraine to update the dongle, and then pretty much overnight we get it updated, which means you get dongles a lot faster. The only person who hasn't got it faster is the first person, and there's always going to be teething issues to work out, like, okay, great, now I've got the dongles, but when I go through to put an order into the system, you know, there's obviously still a shipping fee, so we had to overcome that. But now it'll be lots of fast, very much fast, and me, very bad English. Philip, why does L8 work with the drag function that's going to take ages if your stage is 35 meters by 120 meters? So if you're designing a stage of that scale, we would hope that you're doing it in Vectorworks, but depending on the way you do it, you do have tools that are a bit more friendly to use. So if you had, let's say you had a straight truss and you had 10 of these lights, right? Or how many I've just put here. And you know that they need to be spanned over 6 meters. We can just go greater than 6 and space them out like that. Or we can build one rig and then we can mirror it as well. So we can do a lot more in L8. I'm just choosing to do the nice finicky, nice way of doing things. So on board, we've got normal DMX control, but we've also got sort of what I would call a testing mode that allows you to drop lights in, see what they look like, and go, yeah, that looks cool. But what I really want is I really want to mirror them on the floor as well. And we know that we can set the altitude to 0 now. Or a little higher, because they're using a center point that center the fixture. Are you using a console at the moment? Right now I am not. Currently I'm just using no DMX or testing mode, but I'm about to hook up a lighting desk as I've obviously encountered that lovely issue of having lights going in different directions and now spinning. So leads me to the next thing. How did you do it getting the fixture positions into L8 from my Climax file? So there is a tool that comes with L8 called XML to LC, which basically you feed an MA patch file in and it spits out a file that we can import into L8. It gives you all your fixture positions and fixture types, but it won't do any of your 3D assets if it's, if you've exported it out of MA 3D. But that's how I did that. We just had to do a couple of little tweaks to fix that. But anyway, patching is really simple. So we're going to grab all our fixtures that we want to do. We're going to go DMX input, and I'm going to select the first universe here, and it's automatically going to populate my addresses. And then if we want to change the way that we're talking to it, we can just select it here. So if you're running a CE version, you have the option of ArtNet or SACN. If you're running media and above, you can do the MA driver or the HOG driver. The HOG driver works without any without any HOG hardware. The MA driver does require MA parameters though, and that is a limitation of MA. I am old enough to be using this product to remember back in the 2.9 days when you didn't need any hardware, and now every second sentence out of my mouth is, but you require parameters. How to add laser? Well, I'll cover that one next, and also load save camera views for paperwork. Let me just quickly jump across to my lovely little MA that we've got here. I've done my test fixture. Let's go mega points. I keep calling them mega beams. Mega points. And we want 34 channel modes. So we'll mode 2. And we have 8 of them. Cool. So while we're here, I want to answer one little question lightly. Just while we're here. How to get SACN and ArtNet out to L8. Sometimes it's better to unicast, so you can see that's what I'm doing here. So with MA hardware attached, I've got it set to output active, and I've set the IP address of actually my local computer. If I wanted to ArtNet, I could do the same thing. If you ever encounter issues with L8 where it's not giving you the information required, like you swear that you've done all the config and just L8 isn't giving you what you want, if you come into your L8 folder and locate a file called output, you can actually choose which IP address the output and input is set to. So as you can see, I've tried to use ArtNet here, but that's obviously not an ArtNet range. But we can either comment it out and it'll just try to find the right interface, but if you've got multiple interfaces, sometimes it's just better to define the one you want, like here. Yeah, you know what, let's save. And there's also another one for QnA. So while I scroll through my files here, we've also got one called QnA, and this is for versions media and above. We can do MANet, so I've just told it that we're using the MANet driver for 2.9 and above, and the same just the IP address, the network adapter, and the PC that is connected to MANet. So this is not your console IP, and then whichever your session is. And now we've got control. What about the Avalite's Titan mobile wing? Can you use? Well, there is an Avo driver. To be honest, I've never tried it. But it looks like there is a parameter driver for it. Let's go have a look. I'll need to test that, but there is ACDI, which I'm pretty sure is for Avalites. So with our lights now patched, let me just do a bit of MA stuff, fixture one through, and check that we've got control. Which we do, hooray! They just go in different directions, of course, because some are inverted. And I could fix this on the desk. I also could use a rotating Gobo wheel. Could also set my wheel to actually rotate. That might help as well. There we go. Is there a space that people share their L8 stages, like MA stage share? Not for any use, just to see how people go organising, set up their files. Not currently, but I have a bunch of show files, so all the demo files that were used in all the feature demos that we did back on console training, they are available. I will send you a link later on how to, or where to access those. So I can give you a couple of files. It's again just one way of doing it. I don't know whether it's the recommended way, but it is one way of doing it. But maybe it's time to start that website yourself, Cameron. You know, empower yourself. I'm more than willing to give you a couple of files for it. How would you spread fixtures around a circle truss? So let's say 10 lead beams, 150, and the display should face outwards. So if you tilt them 90 degrees, they all meet to the center. Well, if I select just my top 4, and remember what parameter I want to use here. There we go, that's the one we want. So if I go, I'm pretty sure I'll get them. Oh no. Not spun the way that we really wanted them. There is a way of doing it. I remember there's some wacky old video that I remember seeing on how to do like perfect circle trusses, but I have forgotten. Normally I would just build in Vectorworks. And there's a question that will require Google Translate. Although you'd imagine if they're asking, why is there a tiger? Why not? It was a recent addition, and why not have a tiger? Tigers are good. Do we want more tigers? We want a tiger army. I really should harp on a little bit about the new paperwork features. So obviously now we've got paper mode, and we can see our our heat maps of where the lights are. Just make sure that we're set correctly there. On top of that, we've also got a lovely plot view where we can put the IDs of fixtures, the DMX, the name, and we can also change the scaling of them as required. So these are some of the paperwork functionality that we can now get in L8. if we come out of this mode and we go through, we can do the same thing even in even in sort of a render view. So we can set up sort of nice angles there. So if I go over here, we go save, we call it view 1. Then we load we reposition, and then we go view 1. We come back to that position. And we can also crop in and export from there. Can the pay-per-view be viewed in 2D? Sort of. Not really. We can flatten it down, so if we just take out our field of view and we push up the face light, we could probably do it. So if I go back into paper and do the same trick again, field of view, and make sure that we're from the correct camera, which is the back camera. Obviously you'll still need a little bit of perspective, but when we tack in all the information, we can kind of get a general idea. There we go. And we can just reduce that down. So look, it's going to give you an idea, and what we can also do is we can use colors. So I could put these ones in red, and these in blue. And we can use the map. Can you import a 3D Vectorworks file? Yes, you definitely can. It's a very easy process that still needs a video. Basically, there's an L8 export plugin. You run the export plugin. It gives you a file that you drop twice into L8, once into the room section, once into the DMX section, and then you're kind of off to the races. So I'm just going to set my view back to normal. The paperwork features are quite new, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to offend anyone here, but I would classify the paperwork features as a secondary function. I would say that it's definitely a visualizer first and a paperwork tool second. So you can do a full patch export to Excel as well, so you could correlate all your numbers, but it's definitely visualizer first and paperwork second. But I mean, all the paperwork features also come in CE, so your entry, your point of entry is list price €88, which is pretty impressive. Trying to get it in line with that tiger. Although the tiger is centered. Maybe it's just, it's just the way that I'm viewing it from. So I got this lovely big LED screen. Bit of a mission, and what we'll also do is we'll grab a file. What video files have I got? Normally I'd use a media server for this, but I kind of just want to go with just sort of a video now. I don't have any videos that are in the right format. Probably run a console for any video. Doesn't like the console branding video. Oh no, there we go. Hello and welcome to L8 Tips. My name is Alex Hughes, and today we're going through connecting GrandMA 2 to L8. The MA protocol is only available when you've got hardware, and in versions currently. So look, we can put a video file in of me talking about L8 user or not. I could do a media server. Quite easy to drop a media server in. We can talk about laser as well if you want. Let me just map up this screen while we're here. So, one feature I've really been loving recently is the way that we can map multiple instances as LED screens. So if I select all of them and we just go map to view, we get basically a preview of whatever we're running. So it's a 1920 1080 file, and all I have to do is line this up with my screens, and as long as I'm in that black box, we will get one big screen. So now if I go like that, it doesn't look like much, but then you see that the bits are actually mapped to the LED screen. So if I was to run video across that, it would be one big LED screen. You know what, let's fire up a media server. Do you have any questions? Not really. That's alright. Hi Alex, can you adjust the ambient light any more than the main up and down so that it lights the whole room and corners? Well, the reason we're not getting the light in the corners is because of what I did to the walls. So if I default the walls, basically I made them absorb light. so I just defaulted them and then made them not diffuse any, well, made them not reflect any light. Basically put it into a black box environment. Does that answer your question? Yeah, look, I'm really excited for your training as well. I think it'll be really good. I can't wait for you guys to get your media dongle. Just gonna adjust where these lights are. So what I'm doing here is I'm dropping objects into a layer. And then if we jump across to position 1, I can adjust the entire object as 1, even though that the object consists of lighting and... See, I don't know what the roof is. There's the roof. Even though the object or the layer contains lights and room objects, we can still move them together as one thing. And in Trace and unlimited licenses, we can even make moving trusses in this fashion as well. Let me just find my media server. How many groups in a single layer? Well, we can have up to... See, look at me knowing the answers to everything. So you can have up to 255 layers, and you can put as many objects as you want in them. You might have seen that I manipulated just position 1. This is more to do with when we want to DMX control them, because basically we can take any layer and have it controlled by 4 different DMX channels. So you could have sort of, height, tilt, X, Y, and Z essentially, and also rotation. So now I've got my nice little media server running. Let's add some video, hey? So if I go to movie, we can grab capture cards, or I can go NDI. I just need to wait for my NDI media server to tap. There we go. I just want to make it look decent. And now we've got media running. Are you using Resolume? No, I'm currently using Hypnotizer media server. So Hippo supports NDI natively, so does Resolume. I'm just not a Resolume user currently. It's kind of a, you use what you've got. And I have a Hippo. Currently. Did that answer your question about ambient light, Phil? Could you have separate media on small screens? Yeah, you bet. So if I created more mixes in my Hippo, we'll do exactly that. So I might take my default mix while we're doing this. This could be interesting. I could be about to send my monitors into test pattern. Yep. Let's drop this to I don't know whether you can see this or not. 1280, 720. So just let me reconfigure my server. Can you adjust the beam angle of it? Of the light? Not really. Because it's kind of ambient light. If you wanted beam angle, I'd be just putting in DMX house lights or something. Still says waiting for engine. It may be unhappy. Because what I'm trying to do is essentially create mixes in Hypnotizer without any outputs. I might have to get more intelligent about this. But yeah, you definitely can. So, you saw before, if I just do this really simply, I could just grab a different NDI source. Let's just use for this back one, and then I'll grab another video file for the front one. So I'll use Techo. So we've got 2 videos running, and I've seen guys running like 9, 10 videos, some over capture cards, some over other methods. So you can definitely do multiple inputs. A good example of that would be if you were doing, you know, preview monitors, or you were doing a projection blend. Obviously you'd want 2 different inputs. Oh, that did work. Okay, just took a little while. NDI for both. I apologise that the media server isn't on stream. I didn't really intend to do media. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Come on, Hippo. Alright, here we go. So, if we grab our back media server, and I put it as NDI number 1, we get the front content, and then if I grab my tiny ones, and we make that NDI 2, hopefully, I'm just checking, if I drag this window over here, you should actually be able to see what I'm doing. But you may not. No, you can't, unfortunately. Because of the way that I'm capturing. There we go, so we've got 2. You can see the test pattern there. I'll change the input so we know that it's live and real. That's a globe. Not really the greatest of content. That's the same bit of content twice. There we go, so that's 2 bits of content playing. The frame rate isn't great because my poor little hippo is struggling. But that's 2 1280, 1920 1280 clips playing back off a media server, both over NDI. I could bring in capture cards as well if I wanted to. But that's more media playing. You get the gist of it. Well, this is what I love, to be honest. I did a show where we were doing this massive 16 meter LED screen, and none of our capture cards or any of that could handle it, and we just wanted to sort of see what content was going to look like. So being the fact that NDI, which is a network protocol, isn't constrained to a resolution, we punched the full 16,500 pixels, so it's not very high but very long out, and then sat there with the hippo and basically programmed it in L8, and it worked really well. So it does, you know, the frame rate wasn't amazing, but it definitely has its value. Just gonna turn down the smoke for a sec. I'm running it all off one computer. Also don't like the way the floor looks now. I think I've broken the floor. Let's just put a bit of diffusion in so we can see the floor. There we go, that looks a lot better. Currently running off a laptop, a Metabox with a RTX 2070 graphics card. So the laptops struggle a little more than the other things do. I'll tell you what the usage is. I imagine most of it's from the hypnotizer. Yeah. The graphics card is fine, it's mainly CPU based. Very interesting. Not a Prime V. Prime V, not Prime X. Sorry, Prime X, not Prime V. Prime V, the thinner one. I have to check the box. But I love the Metaboxes. I've got 2 of them. They work and work and work. But if you do overdo it, they do crash. But I literally mean overdo it. Last night I was doing a stream of L8, and I was running XSplit to do encoding, Resolume to do content, MA, L8, and the poor little thing just couldn't couldn't hold its own. I also have Oculus running. One feature that is unlimited only, which works really well, is VR. I really should do a video on VR. I do love VR in L8. It's such a cool experience to stand there with a client and, do VR and have them sort of stand on their stage. So I did it with a client that we'd actually done an event, pre-COVID with, and they're like, wow, it's exactly as, we remember the stage. It's almost like they could reach out and touch their big client. It was unbelievably cool. I wish they would make it work with Oculus Quest. Have I had this discussion with you? I had a Quest discussion with someone recently. I'm yet to try it, and VR is kind of a funny one. Either VR works or VR makes you vomit. So I wouldn't trust anything that's... I know it's cable based now, but I'd still have reservations. Yeah, so it was you I had the conversation with. Yeah, cool. It also doesn't help, I'm not sure if you can see at the top of my screen, my computer is currently trying to do 120 Hertz. I'm wondering whether I can limit it so it doesn't do that a bit. There, that's better. It's night and day. Now, let's see. Yep, there we go. So now we're pushing for half processing, so now we're only doing 30 frames, but that's a lot better, because it's... Oh, nope, there we go. Now it's still peaking up over the top. It's because this monitor is set to 120 Hertz. Anyway, enough of the excuses. Yes, I am. I'm using a ridiculous ultra-wide monitor. It is glorious because it means everything is on one screen, but yeah, it means that the poor little laptop tries to do its full 120 Hertz. Anyway, enough excuses. Let's do something. Ask a question. Somebody's question. And the question can't be, why is there a tiger? Yeah, I feel like I've actually made the performance worse by doing 1 to 2. So if I try to force it out of window mode, what will happen is it will change the refresh rate on my display and it'll be full screen, and we don't want that. Can you show us a stage structure pre-made? Can I English? Is a better question. As in, can I English? Yeah, totally. Let's have a look. So we've got a couple of inbuilt ones. So let's just wipe our tiger for the moment. And our lights. We'll run through what we've got. They are quite basic. So we've got the MR1, which we'll put over there. We've got another MR1, a slightly larger one. Hopefully it doesn't build because I had the wall selected. So we can see we've got two MR1s, an MR2. So we'll do the MR2 now. But you can bring SketchUp files in. So, I've just realised I didn't reply to one of your emails. So there was a question of how do I bring sort of objects in to L8, such as speakers. It's really simple. So if you're using Vectorworks or SketchUp, basically you can just export out as a 3ds and bring them straight in. So once it's in as a 3ds, we kind of don't want to have to deal with, you know, every part of an array. Let's say it's a L-acoustics array. So let's actually make it an L-acoustics array. Is that missing bits? No, that's not missing bits. It's just my eyes. Let's bring in some of the L-acoustics that they've got here, which is under symbols, K2. So we've got some K2 boxes here. I'm going to make a very rudimentary line array. And I'm going to try using the snapping tool to make my process even faster. I know technically one of these should be a K1 box or something. I'm not an audio person. Anyway, so that's a very flat array we've just built. So, you know, for sanity's sake, let's say this is the world's worst curve. You don't want to have to deal with this array again in this configuration. What you want to be able to do is you want to be able to select all the objects, go export to 3DL, and call it LA-K2 single. Whoops. How many boxes is it? Let's say it's a 5-box hang. And it's going to export that. Then if we go back into 3D model and we find LA-K2 5-box hang, we could put it in a folder. But if we bring this back in, it should work, but it looks like it's had a scaling issue. You wouldn't have this problem if it wasn't an L8 object, believe it or not. I will have to raise that with the developers though. Maybe we'll try it as an X format. 3DL is the proprietary format for L8. Let's just call it K2 box hang. And repeat the process. Nope. K2 box hang. Interesting. Alright, one more time with feeling. DXF. K2 box 5. It could be because it's a symbol. I suspect they've prevented me from being able to do what I want here. Oh no, there we go. It just hasn't come across with its texture. But that's fine. We can just make it black. Technically it should be that hideous sort of orangey colour, shouldn't it, for L-acoustics? But there we go. But now it is just one item. So we can deal with that. We can duplicate that as well if we wanted to. But now we can deal with it as one, you know, gloriously large item. And if I get the rotation right, maybe it'll still look terrible, won't it? Because there'll be a random curve halfway through. See, look, you know, you could even model the bolts. That is the most ass backwards line array. But hey, it works. Yeah, that's what well, yeah, brown box. Well, it's kind of brown, it's sort of gold. I made the Yellow Acoustics gold range. But yeah, you can bring, you know, obviously this is a bad example because I've used something that's already in L8. But if we had SketchUp or I had Vectorworks, what do you mean that will work right? That's going to be terrible. There's like half of the PA that's focused on no one. Like, who's going to be sitting... Oh, I can't do a line with it. Who's going to be sitting... like, up there? There's something terribly wrong with that array. Anyway. I could try Vectorworks. We could try a Vectorworks export. Because then, obviously, we've got all the Vectorworks models that I can bring in. Do I prefer Vectorworks or SketchUp? Stockholm Syndrome. When you own Vectorworks and you pay an abominable amount of money, you end up using Vectorworks. I don't own SketchUp. I wouldn't say abuse the capacity to use SketchUp, but that's kind of what it is. So SketchUp has got this fantastic thing called the 3D Warehouse, and allows you to download SKP, which is the files that SketchUp formats are in. Vectorworks can natively open an SKP file. So, you know, you jump on the 3D Warehouse and you find, you know, Rod Laver Arena or something modeled. Obviously, you know, not for a client render, but if you were just trying to get something that looks spectacular, you could jump on there, download a model, strip it out in the free version of SketchUp, save as SketchUp, and then bring it into Vectorworks and then export out. Because SketchUp Pro is required to do 3DL export. I love Vectorworks, honestly. It's kind of like Russian roulette. You know, we pay all this money for a piece of software that may work. It's like a game of chess. It's how many steps can I get into my creative process before the thing crashes. Let me just reshuffle some screens here. And I'll lose MA for now as well. So now I've got to work. Vectorworks is great, just cost heaps. Yeah, that's why you use people like me. I should just be able to create a scene here, sorry. Add source. It's a question of whether my Vectorworks will even open today. I mean, logically it should. But will it? What's it going to show? It's going to show absolutely nothing. Very much fly-by-wire here. I'm working in the preview editor, and then if we do this, 3, 2, 1, Vectorworks! Hooray! Now, not to be confusing, but I'm going to drag my Vectorworks window over the top of my streaming. So, I don't want to enlarge. I've got to drag it over the top of my other program, otherwise this is going to drive me mental. Stand by while I reshuffle. I don't know whether the resolution is correct here. Anyway, so we're in Vectorworks Spotlight 2020, the most stable of boys. And apparently the last thing I was looking at was truss. And video screens. So let's look in audio. Sennheiser don't make speakers. This is when I work out that it turns out they make one speaker. Oh yes, the LSP 500. Sorry, I've been very distracted. DB Technologies, perfectly. The Arena series. I'm used to working... See, I'm full of excuses again. I'm used to working with the full screen available to me, and I've compressed it all down. No, I don't want the Arena series. The Arena series is not built for arenas. It's built for monitor wedges. This just became Vectorworks chat. I should know... DVA? DVA sounds like a line array. Is that a line array? Someone help me. I'm fumbling to find a line array here. I think the Vio, yeah, there we go. That looks like it's going to be something that we can use. So let's download one box of Vio. I think the box is going to be... Which way is the box sitting? It's all very embarrassing. I'm not an audio person. Ah, that looks like it's sitting correctly. So... Perfect. I might be about to array something that isn't actually arrayable, but that's alright. It's going to be a very flat array. So here we have one very tiny line array child. And we're going to export this so that it works in L8. So we've got preloaded here. I've got export all, export visible, export selected. There will be a video on how to install this. If you've ever installed a plugin in Vectorworks, it's very similar. So we're going to export it there first. So we're going to go export all. And then we're just going to find our L8 folder for this project. So it's L8. And I've got to remember what this database is called. Ah, ALV stage, right. So it wasn't the right folder. And then there will be a folder that we need to create called add-ons. You can put these files anywhere, but I have always used add-ons inside so that when I zip up the database folder, all the add-ons follow. So let's call this line array, and it's going to go through and export that. Then we'll jump back into L8. And then we're going to go into room. And we're going to locate that file. It's going to do the same thing that the 3DLs did. That's alright, fear not. We're going to jump back into Vectorworks. We're just going to go File, Exports, 3ds, all visible objects, and we're going to put it in the same location. Obviously some windows aren't appearing here, so all I'm doing is going through and exporting a 3DL file, 3DS, and then bringing it in. And there we go. So that's, you know, it's a very simple model. And I think it might be backwards. But I guess we can try something a bit more advanced in Vectorworks. We could try bringing in something that's a little more complex in scale. I think that one will work. Or it's going to be a blank file. Thought I had something that was going to be ground support example. There we go, that'll do. No, we're not doing a car. Car is too small. Think bigger. So this is actually a SketchUp file that's been converted already, so we'll look at it in Vectorworks and then bring it across. I think there's a bit more to it than that, Vectorworks. Thank you very much. There we go. So a quite comprehensive sort of little floor package here. And if we go spotlight, doesn't have to be speakers. We're not doing speakers, we're doing a full stage. This is, you know, export all. And we'll place it in add-ons. We'll just go ground support example. And it prompts us, it's going to ask us unit number, which again is something you can't see. And then we'll wait while it prepares the object, which won't take too long. In the meantime, I'm just going to clear out all our other objects. We'll check in with Vectorworks. So it's 51. So the lighting is already in Vectorworks, so you might be able to see some of the floor package there. So I've drawn basically the entire thing, addressed it and everything. I believe I've addressed it. I can't remember with this file. And then we're going to bring it into L8 and I'll go through the process of exporting it. Oh, sorry, importing it twice. So once we do the room object, so the ground support, everything around that, and then we bring in the same file again and it will open up all the lights and stuff. So file has been exported. So let's come into L8. Browse 3D model, Explorer. We'll locate that file again off screen. Yeah, 3DL export's not really happening. So for the 3D object, I'm just going to do 3DL. which shouldn't take too long. Take 2. The file is 65 megabytes, so it might have just got caught up on that. Because it's not optimized, coming straight out of SketchUp. Looks like I've only exported that layer. I'll need to go back and export the other layers out of Vectorworks. What's the best file size for export? Smallest possible. Look, just optimize your model as best as you can. But it'll take files of, you know, up to 150 meg. I've seen work fairly well, but it all depends on the level of detail and how many vertices it uses. We're hoping that L8 will soon include MVR, which is the lovely new buzzword for bringing files in. That works natively with Vectorworks without any conversion. Visualizers like the Pence have got it. But 3ds works reasonably well. It's a very flat person we've got there. So it's not really about the file size, it's what you can group. So you might have noticed down here we've got 53 objects. And it's using, you know, 953,000 vertices or vertexes. So this is not going to be the most optimized file, but it'll come in. I've used this one before. I suspect Vectorworks might be consuming a bit of resources here. Cool. So I'm gonna have to make my room bigger. And probably higher. So we've got the stage in. Now if we go into DMX and we go import, and we browse for that same file that we used the first time. We should get all our lights. Done. So it's a full rig in. And depending on the way that I've grouped this, so two objects look like they might be sitting over the top of each other, but by the look of it, I've grouped this in such a way that I should be able to put video screens in. But the proof is in the pudding, obviously. We've got the model in, but it doesn't work. Well, let's dim the house lights and have a look. So we can see down the bottom we've got some Martin 3 performances, and we can see that they've already got their addresses. I don't have a lighting desk connected, but let's run them up and see that they work with a little bit of haze. And let's focus them down on our little person that we've got here. Them in blue. What else have we got here? Ah, mega pointies, of course. Feel like I still... yeah, there we go. See, I knew there was something missing from the model. Our very ornate front of house position. Yeah, look, it didn't look too hard. It's pretty simple. And there's always a little bit of tweaking involved. Sometimes it doesn't pick up on the right software versions and stuff like that, but you know, everything's modeled. We can see we've even got MAs at front of house, of course, and we've got some Mac 3s doing the duty of front light, keyboards, and what other lights do we have? We've got some red spiders. So why don't we use them to light up the stage a bit? I don't have my 3D mouse with me. I know I said that before. So yeah, we can see that we've got a couple of lights that have slightly misbehaved. We've got some hurricanes that'll just require a swift rotate. But other than a swift rotate, they are pretty much ready for action. And pushing bar 4s look fine. But I'd say we've got pretty much a rig there. People are going to get really confused if they left to go and grab a cup of coffee or something. And they're like, oh, when I looked there was a tiger up on stage. Now he's put a full ground support. How did that happen? You should be excited about L8. You shouldn't be excited. You've got CE licenses. Have you fired them up and had a look yet? Or are you waiting until your media arrives? Meteor is the best seller of the range. I reckon it's the most feature rich. Trace is great, like obviously being able to do mirrors and moving objects is an amazing add-on. And people say, to be honest, people say that Trace is really expensive. But when you're starting to do or pitch on moving objects, I think the upgrade price is definitely worth it. That's Christmas. Maybe not that look. And you can get some really nice, you know, obviously I don't have a lighting desk connected, but we can still get some really nice sort of conceptual looks done. So again, if I jump out of here, quickly put it in video encode mode, we can see that it does 640 by 480 as I slowly pan around. And then if I'm done, it's going to now render out a full HD file. Any chance you could run through your MA to L8 setup? Keep having issues with it not connecting. So confused why. Cameron, what protocol are you using? I would advocate for SACN, but I'd be more than happy to show you the setup thing here. And do you have MA hardware? Always the question. Concentrating on the results. Just have MA hardware. Don't mind this royalty-free music. Yep, SACN, NSP. And you're running L8 and the software on the same computer? And you're running CE, aren't you? I think you said you were running CE. We can have a look. Yeah, correct, CE. Yeah, cool. Let me just load up my MA and we'll have a look. So were you were around at the beginning, Cameron, when I went through the config file for L8? Setting up the IPs and stuff? I thought you said you got it working. I swear you said you got it working. Alright, well anyway, we'll run through the process. So welcome to console training, I guess. That's alright, it's still an L8 question. So, it worked yesterday, not sure what's changed. So we'll run through everything. So, obviously you need to have fixtures patched for it to output. So I've got, by the look of it, some hideous fixture I was building. That's alright. Because I've run up 3706 rather than 39. That's perfectly fine. So we'll make sure that we've got parameters, which we do. We can see that we've got 4096. So if I now go into MA network configuration, confirm that I've got my nodes, and we go into SACN mode and we go output, and if I quickly drop back into L8, we can see down the bottom it says SACN. So I've already got SACN. However, if you're still having issues, what you can do is just rearranging windows here. You can try to unicast. So we're going to use the IP address of the computer that's running L8. So it's 10.110. And we make sure that output is active. And that's really all we can do from an MA end. From an L8 end, what we can do is if we come into our L8 or L8CE folder, there's a file called output. And we can remove the hash tag at the front here, or just the hash. And we can key in that same IP address. So this is using a fixed IP address of the card that we want to use. So this is your L8 computer's IP address, essentially. So if I'm ever having issues, this is what I do. Despite saying output, it also applies to input. So I'd try doing that. Are you running off the same computer? What is... Give me a little bit more information about your setup. We're here to help. And obviously you've got your node connected. I know you mentioned you were running a switch. We might have to have a look after the stream. If you've got some time, I'm more than happy to have a look. It sounds like a bit of a weird one. But I definitely have a look at that out_IP text file to see whether you can get any love. Obviously when you make changes to that, you'll need to restart L8 or L8CE. Does anyone have any questions? I know I didn't get to the laser one, but perhaps we can do that on another stream at another time. I've just noticed that the streaming software that I use is saying that it's only doing 30 frames rather than the full 60, which is interesting. That, again, would be an excuse, and it would be me running everything off the same computer. This music kind of sounds like it's out of The Sims. Feels like I'm building something in The Sims. What's in here? Yeah, that would be an interesting look. But perhaps not the look we're going for. It's got an interesting, weird forced perspective look now. Apparently the music is too loud. Why don't we lose the music? Nice and simple. Easy. Sorry I joined late. Can I ask what the hardware requirement is? The hardware requirement is based on how many fixtures that you would like to do. The system we're running off here is a RTX 2070 laptop. And I'm yet to really have any issues or notice anything performance-wise under about 512 fixtures, even with strobes. Here, not the greatest example because we're running a media server off it as well, and Vectorworks and all the streaming software. But pretty much, you know, it'll support anything from a couple of years old, as long as it doesn't. As long as it doesn't have an integrated graphics card, you should be fine. You can always drop the quality down a bit. Hopefully that answers your question. And hopefully I answered your question, Cameron. I think you've got a little bit more playing to do. And if you don't get the desired reaction, let me know. And we will look into that. I reckon a lot of the frame rate is lost by these under barriers. Although they aren't see-through. But they do have a lot of faces on them. And I am pointing lights directly into a LED screen now. Cool, I've gone from the start, went step by step, copy your IPs, and we got a winner, hooray! Oh no, man, look, kind of embarrassing, I can't remember, I think you bought your LACE off me, but either way, I am indebted to support you anyway, even if you haven't bought off me, and it's better to ask a question, especially with software, than get frustrated and ending up shelving a project. There's nothing worse than, you know, getting frustrated and just going, well, it doesn't work, I'll move on, you know. Especially if you've invested money, especially if you've invested time. The Facebook group is really helpful. Feel free to ask questions. The development team, Dimitri and stuff, are also fantastic at asking questions. Their answers are always very direct. So I'm working on softening them, but their English is a lot better than my Ukrainian. So, you know. No worries, thanks, man. Look, I reckon CE is a really good product. CE2 is really exciting. Maybe there'll be a CE3. I don't know. I haven't heard any plans for CE3, but wouldn't it be good to just be able to have one media layer? You know, just get one video screen or something. Maybe suggest that to L8. Yeah, that UV template's a bit wacky. But it looks cool. Kind of looks like a real gig. I miss gigs. I remember when gigs were a thing. How good were gigs? Alright, unless we've got any more questions, we might end the stream up here. Thank you for coming by. We've been hanging out for about nearly 2 hours now. We've answered a couple of questions. We've imported a massive Vectorworks file. And due to the fact that this channel doesn't have 1,000 subscribers, I make no money off this. So please subscribe to my YouTube channels. Especially L8 Tips. Console Training's doing alright. But L8 Tips doesn't have 1,000 subscribers, and it needs to have 1,000 subscribers. Not that the amount of money that you'd made off a 1,000 subscriber channel is much, not that much when you make it off a 10,000 subscribers like the console training one, but it's good to always have. Oh, oh, hey Cameron. Now I'm going to be really nice to you. That was a good show, man. That was a really good show. That was kind of funny. That was the first time I saw that design. It looked good on paper. The ring was a bit interesting on Tash, but that was a good design. Now you've got me wondering. I wonder whether I've got that file loaded still. I reckon I do. There is also a chance that I have just deleted it or removed it from this install. Yeah, it looks like I don't have it anymore. That's disappointing. Yeah, I don't have it. But that was one that was built and programmed in L8. That was a couple of years ago now. With the globes. Oh, the globes. Did we have the globes in Adelaide? Ah, really? I thought the globes came later than Adelaide. Those globes are a pain in the ass. So Cameron's referring to a show that I did a couple of years ago. God, I miss touring. And we had just sort of festoon style globes that were arrayed at the back because the artist Tash wanted to have sort of like a homely vibe. I don't. She definitely wasn't new to touring, but she didn't want it to be as sterile. She wanted something that was nice, so she had a salt lamp. She burnt candles. I think she still burns incense and stuff. But she wanted festoons. So we went and bought these festoons, and I insisted on non-LED ones because I wanted to be able to dim them. So they barely arrived, I think. Yeah, 1,000%. But like, imagine touring with those. I toured with those. I still have the Pelicans for them. I think I bought like a Pelican 1510 for them, and then we ended up with another Pelican. Oh, like there was literally like a Tash riser Pelican of just like salt lamps and globes, and we didn't break any. This was the best part. I was so gentle with all of those. We didn't break globes up until Melbourne. And that was like the 5th show in the tour. And that was when I was getting cocky. I just wanted to get out of there. And I was like, these will be fine. They haven't broken so far. And I think I broke just pulling out about 3 or 4 of them. But that was also a funny story. You know, doing Margaret Court and Arena with festoons was a bit of a fun one. But anyway, you know, now we've verged off into non-L8 related things. So anyway, thanks for coming and hanging out, asking your questions. Hopefully this has been helpful. We should talk, Cameron. We should definitely talk. Beechan's a friend of mine. Those bloody LED candles. Alright. Thanks, everyone.